Hello guys, that's me Shivam Kumar, your host, and it's time for us to learn the French defense. I'll not waste more of your time. Let's start directly. So, what is a French defense? It's basically used if your opponent will play e4. It's called the king's pawn game. The moment we have e4, White's plan is more or like clear. He wants to attack your weak f7 square. Now, if you play e5, syncing yourself together with the your opponent, then your opponent can launch multiple attacks. Knight f3, bishop c4 is one of the attacks attacking on the f7 square. Remember, it's f7 square on the attack. Bishop b5, Ruy Lopez. Knight to this c3, and then यहाँ पे f4. It's called the Vienna Gambit. It's again focused on whole of the attacks on the weak f7 square. Directly we have f4, the King's Gambit, which offers the 54 win percent. मतलब 54 win rate for the white in just second move. It's the highest win rate that white can ever achieve in a second move. It is actually occurred by f4, the King's Gambit. All of these conditions, all of these problems occur just because you played e5, syncing together with your opponent. If you play e6, this is called the French defense, and all the plan, all the attack, all the things of white will simply vanishes, and then your chance will come to launch an attack. How? In this condition, 190 million people play d4. That's perfectly fine. We don't have a problem with this. We have d5. Now, the moment we have d5, you can understand your f7 square is so much protected. You don't even need to go for castle, because you can put your king to e7, and these pawn will defend your king with their life. They are actually very good here. If you will look careful in this condition, white's light square bishop is not able to develop in any of the convenient square, because the only square is e2 and d3. If we consider c4, it's not possible. b5 is not possible because you don't have your knight to c6. You can simply play knight d7, and this will not ruin your structure. Meanwhile, you have very good central control here, so that's perfectly fine for you. And guys, one more thing, your opponent's dark square bishop is also no use. He is bound to defend b2 pawn. I will tell you in a moment how. Now, your opponent will definitely take this pawn. I'm not saying it, it's in the database. Your opponent will definitely play e6, the advanced French variation. I'm not saying it myself, it's in the database. Your opponent can play knight to c3. It's called the Paulsen attack. So in this whole video, we are not gonna cover all the three variations, because I am going to analyze each and every variation in depth. So guys, I will need per variation per video. So this is the video in which we will go specifically looking for the e5. It's called what? French defense advanced variation, because that's the most played move. Second is the exchange variation. We will look in the next video. Third is the knight c3. It's called the Paulsen attack, which we'll look in the next video. Okay, so keep supporting. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you may miss all those variations. Subscribe. Okay, so we have e5. It's called the advanced French variation. Why do people play e5? If you will ask me, I'll tell you behind the move e5, there is a very hidden motive. The hidden motive is that white don't want me to play knight f6. If my knight is not at f6, the h7 is not defended accurately. Rook is defending the pawn. What is the point? But after you go for castle, s7 will become your new weakness. You will ask, okay, let's say if he went for bishop to d3, it's attacking the pawn. No matter what will happen, like there's nothing of more problem. But after this c3, queen will also join the attack, and this attack will simply become very terrible, because you don't have your knight at f6. So how will you defend it? There is no way to defend this, and you will face critical problems. But don't worry, I'll tell you how to deal with this. You play c5 in this condition, just trying to control on the center. Okay, if they capture, you will capture. Now this pawn is just a liability, not an asset. It's a liability, because you play queen c7, attack this pawn. You are actually fine here. Therefore, they won't take your pawn. Instead, they will try to defend it. Okay, the motive behind playing c3 is that they want to put their queen c2 and bishop d3. So you have to be very sure to capture or trade this bishop. Okay, that should be your main plan. Now you play knight c6, hitting on the center. They play knight f3, defending the center. You can play queen b6, which is actually the main move here, which is like most of the people will tell you that queen b6 simply control the diagonal and also attacks on the b2 square. That means it will bound the dark square bishop. It's perfectly fine, but I think you are like telling your opponent your plan of action way too much earlier. I want you to play bishop d7 first, opening up the rook's file. What am I saying? Yes, because the next move is rook c8, and very soon you will find out your rook, which is passive right now, will suddenly become very active. It's actually part of your plan. So you must play bishop d7 in this condition. Now your opponent has to develop his light square bishop because he wants to go for castle. I told you there are only two squares to play, which is the most played square. But what if your opponent tried to play something like very smart and he played bishop to this b5, just kind of a tactical development, just attacking on the bishop, sorry, knight, and also aiming to go for a castle on the next move. This is a blunder. Why it's a blunder? It's a blunder because we have knight captures the pawn. That's why it's a blunder. In this condition, if your opponent tries to capture the bishop, you will capture it back, and now you won the e5 pawn. This pawn chain has been broken down, or maybe one of its arm has been broken down. It become weak. Meanwhile, we have a very insanable strength pawn chain, which means we have so much control over the center. Let's say if your opponent took your knight instead, but you will take their bishop instead. Now the white can't go for castle. You are perfectly fine here, guys. Don't worry, it's very good. So therefore, they won't do this. They will simply develop the bishop to d3, and that's perfectly fine. Rook c8, as we discussed. And now, guys, in this condition, the most played move, like 144,000 people play castle. The moment they go for castle, you take in the center. They will take, and here comes knight to b4. Suddenly the rook will become very active, but more important, you are attacking on the light square bishop, which will create problem when you go for kingside castle. I told you, either capture or trade this bishop. If they want to like save their bishop, like since it's attacking so much, very good. So we have bishop e2 saving, but that would lead to knight c2. Rook is lost. Why? My rook or your rook has become very active in this condition. Therefore, they can't do anything. Knight c3 is their move to break the rook's harmony on the second or maybe first rank. You capture it, they will capture it. Guess what? Now the situation is under control, and then you can play knight e7, just going for development. Why knight e7? In near future, since you have traded off this light square bishop, the conditions are actually fine for you. You can play knight f5 and then target on the weak pawn. This is center. You can play queen b6. Now you can target on these two pawns. Guess what? It is the right time to unleash your attack. Now let's say your opponent do something, like let's say he tries to pin the knight to the queen. Don't worry, you can simply attack the bishop, no worries. Bishop moves away, still maintaining the pin, but you play queen b6, attacking on the pawn. That's fine. If they capture, you will capture. It will lead to a development as well, and you can go for castle. It is perfectly fine. Let's say they try to defend the pawn, then you play knight to this f5, hitting on this pawn, hitting on the bishop. Bishop moves away, and you can simply develop your bishop. That's fine. Let's say if they try to play rook d1, let's say if they do anything, like I don't know what they will do. It's like we are perfectly fine here. Our development is actually completed because we can go for castle, and the situation is in a very harmony. Like you are on your full potential. The development has been completed, and now you have successfully reached the middle game. The French defense has simply protected all of your way. So now you just have to launch attacks in the middle game phase, try to do some tactic, and that's all. You can simply win this game if you play logically from this point of time. If we look at the second position, it's a3. It's 30,000 people plays a3. So what if you got a match with these 30,000 people? So let's say they play a3. No worries, take stakes, and then you can't play your knight to this b4. What to do? Queen b6. If you can't do one attack, do the second attack. You have tons of attacks in your library. You are perfectly fine here. We are attacking on this pawn, so that means dark square bishop is bound to protect the b2 pawn. Moreover, we are attacking on the center as well. Knight is attacking on d4, queen is attacking, meanwhile defended only once. So yes, we have the majority here. Bishop moves away so the queen can also defend, and in this condition, you have to play a very good move. Like if in the database, if you will look, 17,000 people play knight g7, which is not a bad move. It's just that they want to complete development, and then they can simply do fianchetto to control this diagonal even more better with their dark square bishop. That's actually a fine move. If you look at the second move, it's knight a5. Maybe people try to do something with this. But then we will look at third move. It's 3.4k. People playing g5. It's like insanely well move. Why? You will ask me like, okay, knight can take, bishop can take, like it's a blunder, but it's not, believe me. If knight captures, you will like, oh man, it's actually blunder for the white, not for us, because then since white has dropped the defense from the center. You will capture it. Now again suddenly rook become very active, and then you are threatening to capture the bishop with a fork, and then the rook will fall. Literally, it's actually the 8-point lead you will gonna get in just single move. Your opponent may try to knight c3, just breaking the harmony between the rook and the bishop. You still capture, queen capture. Now you play the knight is hanging because that's a pin, right? So let's say if your opponent try to do something like, what can he do? He can do nothing. Just done. This knight is done for sure. But still, let's say if they try to play knight to a4 hitting on the queen instead, then you can do one thing, like you can first capture the queen, they capture, you capture the knight, so you won a full 3-point here. But there is one thing I want to tell you, like there is a one move, it's actually queen check to a5, bishop defends, and you take this pawn. That means you won a free pawn first, queen defends, takes, and then bishop captures. Guess what, you won 4-point here. So that's actually fine for you. Let's say what will happen if I play bishop d3, because we were attacking twice. So white simply moved his bishop to d3. In this condition, you have very good moves. Queen b3 offering a trade, but it's not actually the trade, because after trade takes, you just take it with the attack on the rook, attack on the bishop. Your opponent will definitely gonna lose any of its pieces. Moreover, that's just a devastating move, because that would lead to the fall of the rook as well. So that's actually a good thing for us. Let's say if your opponent simply ignored the threat and played knight c3, then what? Sacrifice the knight. Captures with the check, bishop defends, you capture the bishop. You now won a full 2-point here. And the engine rating is, as you can see, minus 4.8. Good thing for you. Let's say if your opponent simply just go for a castle, then what can you do? You don't have to take it, because that would simply ruin the whole, like, what can I say, whole fun, right? So instead take the bishop and intermediate check, intermediate attack. Queen captures, you captures. Now there is a threat to go for a fork here. So what can your opponent do? Let's say if we try to play queen c7, attacking on this pawn and also threatening to go for a check here, you still go for a check, king moves away. Now it's a discover attack, not a discover check. Okay, so captures with a check, king moves away. And then, like, many people try to play bishop e7, because they thought after check bishop d8, it's actually fine for them, but they misses this attack, because now the rook is hanging. So if you capture, you will lose the bishop, you will lose this light square bishop as well, because it's actually hanging. So you have to be like play a bit passive. Therefore the best move in this condition is just to play knight to this h6. Why knight h6? Because if go for a check, king can simply move up, and this is protected, you can definitely play bishop g7, and then the queen will be under attack. Okay, yes, they can take this pawn, but doesn't no matter, you have perfectly fine position, so you can win this game. What will happen if your opponent play bishop takes the pawn? Then they will simply drop the defense of the b2. Therefore you capture it, knight defend, and the moment knight comes to d2, so that queen can defend the rook. But guess what? Queen is now not able to defend the center. You capture, they capture, you capture it once again. Now this pawn is hanging as well, and you have pretty good position. If they go for a castle, you have very good maneuver. It's bishop h6 hitting on the bishop. If the bishop moves away, this knight will be hanging, so therefore they take, knight captures, and you have a very good development here. Since there is no need for you to go for castle, simply play king to e7, because these 3 pawns are actually doing pretty well job to defend your king. You have very good job here. Moreover, this bishop is kind of under attack. So let's say if their opponent try to something like knight hitting on the queen, you will capture, they will capture, and it's pretty fine position for you. You are very good here.
So guys, if they can't take it with the knight and can't take it with the bishop, what can they do? They can simply ignore the threat, and we will push g4 hitting on their knight. Let's say they attack on the queen instead. What can we do? Queen c7, preparing to launch a double attack on the c2 square. Meanwhile the pawn is hanging. I will tell you how it's hanging, because right now the knight is defending this pawn, right? Of course queen is also defending, but if queen leaves the bishop protection, then the bishop is lost. That's the main thing here. And then after, the knight will also lost. So there are multiple things that white has to deal with, but right now the most immediate threat is the knight at f3 is hanging. Let's say knight g5, then what to do? Simply take the pawn, because the moment queen captures the knight, you will capture the bishop. You will attack on this knight as well. Let's say if they capture your pawn, you will simply take their knight, because we have a defense by the bishop, so there is no worries in that. Therefore they have to defend their knight first. Let's say they play knight c3, then their second knight will be hanging. By playing h6, you will trap the second knight, and this knight is simply lost. Okay, so what can be the best move for the white? it's basically h3, stopping the g4 attack. But then what to do? You have very good attacking pattern here. Basically, it's your queen standing at b6 is looking at the f2 pawn, but there are multiple like blockages in between. So therefore, what to do? Simply first capture the pawn. If they capture with the queen, then they will lose the bishop. So you want a full free pawn here. Therefore, they have to capture with the knight, and then you play bishop c5, just launching your full-fledged attack on this g2 square. If they anyhow defend it with the bishop, then they will simply lose the defense of b2 pawn. Let's say the rook is hanging, so they have to defend the rook, and then you capture the bishop, knight, bishop capture bishop, you will take the bishop, and then again you want a single pawn. That means you have full 2 pawn advantage. Moreover, this pawn is hanging as well. You can develop your knight here, and then you can simply unleash your bishop to attack in you, and that's perfectly fine. Therefore, defending it with the bishop is not a good idea. Let's say if knight goes back and defends himself, then guess what? It's capture. So king have 2 squares to move. Basically, it's king e2 and king f1. So what is the best move? Let me tell you the best move. It's basically king e2, moving forward. Because then many black people tend to sacrifice their rook somehow. Like after this, queen captures, and they think like bishop to b5 check is very good move, but then they simply miss the king d1 move, and like the king will simply escape from all the attack. There are no more checks that black can do. Therefore, it's not a good move, I think. The best move in this condition, like after king to this e2, the best move is bishop going back to this g3, controlling these important squares. And also, if the queen is ever under attack, you can simply move your queen away from this dark square, because then that won't hang your dark square bishop. So now in this condition, what is the most played move? 72% people plays king f1. And after this, many people tend to sacrifice their rook. But what is the motive behind their rook sacrifice? Because it's not a good move actually. If anyone has some limited brain, he will figure out that rook sacrifice here is actually not a good move. Now why? It's basically why people actually sacrifice their rook, just because they think after bishop b5 check on this king, bishop defends, and that there is a defense by the queen as well. So like it's perfectly fine for the white, just like black thinks that. So what they do, they first try to deflect the queen. After their queen deflection, queen captures the rook, and then they think bishop b5 check on this king, queen has to defend it, they will simply win a queen. Moreover, if they don't want to play, they can simply play queen g3 as well. But let me tell you, there is a very wrong misconception here. Like white is not obliged, there is no obligation for the white to capture the rook. Instead, white can simply play pawn g4. Yes, and white gain a new escape route. In this whole scenario, white only lost 2 pawns. Yes, you can still win the game, but it's not what a professional chess is. What is a professional chess? Like after king f1, you play bishop b5 check on this king. They will definitely defend it. You capture, queen capture, and then we have rook captures the bishop, attacking on the king. King moves away and you capture the rook as well. And with this whole combo, you won full 7 points. And believe me guys, you will love playing in this way. So what can actually white do? White can't defend with the bishop. White can't play knight f3. What can white do? White can play knight e2, the engine suggested move, and that will make the whole game into an equal state. But still you can capture the pawn, king moves away, and now you don't have adequate amount of pieces to attack forward. Therefore you need more pieces. So what can you do? You can play f6. Why f6? Because that will open up the rook's file. So that's fine. If they capture, you will capture with the knight, that's fine. You go for a castle, rook will automatically become into action, and then it's actually fine for you. You can simply win this game in no time. If they don't capture, that's not what engine suggests. Like many people plays knight bc3. Let's say knight c3 comes. Then you will capture the pawn. You will open up the file as your own. And then what can they do? They take the pawn with the bishop. You develop your knight. If I'm not saying it on my own, but it's like in the database. So bishop captures the knight. You make king e2, like e7. And now guys, it's basically done for white. You have very good attacking situation. Your king is not in a castle, but he is in a very great spot. He's in a very tough spot to crack, because these 3 pawns act as a very good shield. You have 2 connected rooks with the open rook files, and it's perfectly fine for you. Let's say if your opponent plays anything like queen d2, whatsoever, like just unleashing the rook's protection, whatever it is, you have like rook f8 attacking on this file. Let's say queen check, king moves away, your king is in a castle, no one can attack your king, you are perfectly fine. The next move is definitely checkmate if they don't do anything, or if they don't sacrifice anything, because rook, queen and the bishop both are actually on the fire, and it's like amazing game. So you can definitely win this game. So guys, that was all of for the French defense. If you have liked this video, guys, do like, share, comment, subscribe channel. And I have tried my best to explain you like nearly all the variation in the French defense advanced tactics. Let's say there are multiple other variations also as well, like after this e4 you play e6, we have d4 you play d5. They can either take your pawn as well, and they can also play knight to c3. It's called the French defense plus L variation, which we will cover in the next video, in the upcoming video. Okay, so guys, that's all for today. I hope you have liked it. That's me, Shubham Kumar, host. We'll meet in the next video. Till then, take care.